Welcome, everyone. I'm Robbert. I'm CIO for Spil Games. We are a large game publisher on a global operating platform. Today, together with Chen.
Yeah, I'm Chen. I'm from China. I'm in Spil Games Asia. Good to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Very good to be here because
it's exciting.
It's the second HTML5 games-oriented event that I attend. The previous one was actually in Poland, the Young Game Start event. But wow, this is such a different setting. Such a great audience and such a great way it has been organized by Google and Boku. So compliments for that. What is our story about today? We would like to bring up a couple of topics on, sorry, one too quick. We want to tell you more about what do you do as soon as you have a game. There are a lot of game developers out there. How many people did create a game? Could you raise your hand?
Oh, quite a lot.
Quite a lot, okay. How many of you actually created a game that reached an audience of, for example, 5 million users every month? Okay, that becomes a bit less already. We have that experience. We have the experience and the luxury that we have a game audience of over 140 million unique visitors every month. And we are able to push games to the limit. We are able to push games to, let's say, 50 or 80 million unique visitors every month. And that's what we are here for today, to share a bit of the experience on what we've done so far. And we also want to see how we can go about that, to share that knowledge so you can also benefit from that. It's not a typical sales pitch. Please stop me if that becomes the situation. It's all about sharing our experience. I want to take a quick moment to see how before we actually went about to get a game to the end user, because I think about 10 years ago it was very standard for users to go to a store to actually get a CD-ROM. That changed because the CD-ROM was not that popular anymore, or it became an additional version of a game that you could also play online or download online. And you saw that the distribution mechanism became different. So you were going to an online portal and you were able to download the game either for free or you could actually buy a premium game of that. Shortly after that, we actually saw a transition that there was also something like the App Store, the Apple iTunes market, another way to start distributing your games. And again, a more premium model and actually a very interesting and prestigious model for us as well. What we did miss though was the openness of publishing a game to a large audience, because you were limited to just iOS or just an Android market. And that's basically the start for us to consider HTML5 as a very positive experience for our end users. And that's also why we say, okay, our fans do care about HTML5. But okay, they don't. Because it's not about the technology itself. It's not about the game being built in Flash or being built in Unity or being built in HTML5. It's all about the experience. It's all about building a great game that everyone will play. And we will try to give you a bit of insight on what happens in the Asian market nowadays, how you need to go about to build a successful game down there. And I can tell you that that's a bit different. It's actually a true story with a lot of pain, but we've learned how to deal with it, and we're happy to share that with you guys. Of course, it's, again, like everyone explains on stage, it's too difficult to explain it in just 45 minutes, but feel free to grab me or Chen or our colleague Ernst, who's also joining us, if you want to hear more about it. Well, we are sponsored for this trip. Someone paid for my plane ticket, so I want to give you a quick heads up on what we do and who we are. First of all, I think that a lot of people don't know the corporate brand name Spil Games. Spil Games is a large game distribution platform, socially enabled. And we have differentiation because we focus on different target groups. We focus on a girls audience of the age reaching 8 to 12 years old. We have a teens audience, which is about 12 to 16 years old. And we also have a more broad audience, which we call family. You see some brand names. Some of them might be familiar, maybe not, but then you're not probably the right target audience. We have a free and easy to access platform, and we reach, as said, over 140 million unique visitors every month. And I know that Paul just went in a keynote about the amount of unique visitors. The definition is very difficult to get that aligned with other companies, but I think looking at the 140 million, that's only focused on our own casual game portals. And in addition to that, we do traffic in China. We also do traffic in different markets on social networks, for example, and even on mobile. So the numbers in reality are even a lot bigger than that. Important to mention, another key differentiation on our target group is the localization. We go about 19 or almost 20 different languages that we offer our portal experience as well as our game experience. And that's actually quite astonishing if you keep in mind that we offer that on the desktop, on the tablets, as well as on the mobile devices. Some more insights on numbers. Again, the 140 million, I mentioned that already. But interesting to mention is that 85 million of those users are actually female audience. And we have about 2.5 billion page views every month. And that's actually quite impressive if you look at the number of minutes of gameplay. Then taking a quick view on the segmentation in the different positions that we hold in the global position. Here's a list. You see Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, Poland, Italy, all #1 positions. Sweden, Netherlands, of course, our home base. And we are actually quite on par, even on track of the amount of visitors that we expect to reach this year on a monthly basis. And I think we are actually going to exceed that one by about 10 million, since we're already on 140. This is if you look more from a continental perspective, you will see the difference. And you see some piece of the pie goes to Western Europe, quite big, but also to Latin America, North America, Asia. And that's, of course, the part that we will make more a deep dive in. We are also the first, as we at least could check, the first company that brought an HTML5 mobile game portal. And again, we utilize the same strategy to focus on different target groups, to focus on localization as a strong point. And I think about almost a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, we launched those portals. And it's now finally going to start merging into one cross-platform solution. And that's probably something we will go into in more depth later on as well. This is more about the social experience that we offer. I mentioned we're socially enabled. What does it mean? We offer the same thing like any other social network. We are not a social network, but we are socially enabled. Why? Because we think that you should be able to share the games and the gameplay and your achievements, your high scores with friends. That makes gaming a lot more fun. That's the reason that we've actually built this solution. And if you would write what we call an event, which is actually a wall post, you could be able to, you will be able to access that through your mobile device, as well as through the web device. Okay, this is actually the part that I want to hand it over for a short moment to Chen. It is a very unknown territory, Asia. I think not many people know much about it. It is also a strange country, a strange continent, sorry, Chen. But I'm in particular focusing on China, which I find a very interesting and intriguing country because there are a certain set of rules and regulations down there that you need to be aware of. And Chen is going to take you away on how that works.
Okay, good. I'm from the strange country.
True.
Yeah, just to take a break to Asia. So now is midnight of Asia, so it's peaceful. Okay, what we have done in Asia, so we have been there for like a couple of years, And since last year, we start to do something in mobile. We focus on HTML5 for mobile. So what we done? Yeah, first we built our game network in China. So there's two parts. One part is our game portal, like a part of our global strategy. We have our game portal in Asia, China, Japan, and we also, as a local approach, we also partner with a lot of local players, like big players, social network, like Baidu, Sina, Weibo, Kaixin, and this kind of Tencent, this kind of big player. So partner with these guys, which help us expand our game reach to a larger audience, which is very important for us.
It was also a very learnful experience, right? It's not just because it's a big reach, but we can also learn a lot from bridging our games to other users than just our own user base, because that's already large. If you compare it to the social networks, it's a totally different experience, and that's interesting as well.
Yeah, we're the first one to do this, so we do know a lot. Yeah. Then mobile. So we're the first one to launch the mobile portal in China, HTML5 mobile portal in China, part of the global. We're also the first one to integrate our game application in Mixi, which is the largest social network in Japan. Yeah, we started to do this 1 year ago, and we found it quite interesting to share some experience. Developer. So in online world, so we cannot make anything without developer. We co-founded HTML5 developer community in China. Why? Because nobody really know HTML5 in China 1 year ago. So that's why we co-founded this and try to teach more and try to share more to other developers. Right now we got 40,000 developers in this group, and we do the, as you can see the picture, the technical lecture and the game jam and the game test in this year.
And this is since January, right, Chen?
This January.
So I think that's amazing. Within a few months only, reaching that kind of audience on developers, that's huge. I don't think even we do that on LinkedIn or whatever network that we run nowadays.
I do say the passion of developers want to learn this, and they want to do something with HTML5, so it's a great thing. Okay, some insight. Hope it's delicious. Angry? Yeah. There's a huge mobile user in China. This is a comparison between US and the major 3 countries in East Asia. You can see I just changed the number of China mobile users. So I did this graph a couple of months ago, and right now it just reached 900 million mobile users. But it's very different. Network infrastructure in China, Japan, Korea is quite different. For example, the 3G. In China, we only have 4% 3G penetration, but in Japan, almost 98, 97. And in South Korea, it's also very high. So if you want to do something in China for mobile, you have to consider the network speed, so you have to prepare. Smartphone. How many smartphones we have in Asia? China, now we have over 40 million smartphones, half iOS devices, half Android. And Japan, we have over 10 million, and 10% to 15% of all the mobile devices. But it jumped very fast. I think in estimation, in 2015, in China, we will ship 200 million smartphones per year. And in Japan, by 2015, they got over 76 million smartphone mobile users. So with 3G and the smartphone, we could do a lot of things with HTML5 games.
So don't underestimate the strange country, please, because it's a huge untapped potential, I think, for now.
Yeah. In Asia, if you want to quickly acquire the user, so you may need to work with the social network. The social network in China is quite different with Western country. So unfortunately, Facebook is not so popular in Asia. Like in China, it just doesn't exist because we block that for some reason. It's a shame. And even for Japan and South Korea, it's not so popular. Japan just only 5 million, and South Korea is only like 4 million. I think in Japan now the top 3 is Mobile, Gree, and Mixi. And these 3 platforms already support HTML5 mobile game. So that's very good news. And in China, you see the Weibo, which is the Chinese Twitter. It's quite popular this year. They got 200 million users this year. And they start to do the mobile HTML5 game since 2 months ago. So there's a lot of potential opportunity in Asia. So if you want, you can jump in. Revenue model is changing. This is the graph shows the 2005 to 2009. So how the revenue model changing. The red part is microtransaction, virtual item sales. You can see the red part expand a lot from the 2005 to 2009. So it's still get bigger. In China, right now per year, we spend $4 billion on virtual item sales. You just buy this. It's just an example how big the virtual item microtransaction. The DNA, the leading mobile gaming network in Japan, if you compare the revenue and the ARP with Facebook and Zynga, you can see the ARP is much larger. It's like 15 times, 30 times than Facebook. And they are only mobile.
And can you also explain why that is? Why is the ARPU so much higher? Why are people in those countries so much more engaged in gameplay?
I think that's the culture of Japanese. We got some friends from Japan. So if you just go to Japan, you can see in Japan, the more mobile users than PC usage. The people just every time you can bring a phone and play games, and they love to pay for that. Mm-hmm. And also a lot of great mobile game there. Right now you can see a lot of the smartphone game with HTML5 feature, the animation. So it just attract user. Strategy game, card connection. Yeah, there is some regulation like the each country has. We have for example, in China, we have the Great Firewall. So with this Great Firewall, you may cannot use your cloud service out of China. So it's just maybe blocked like Facebook or Twitter. So you have to host your game inside China. So which means you have to get some also license to run your game in China. That's quite a pain. So the quick way is you can choose some partner in China, and yeah, that's a quick solution.
Well, when we started about 5 years ago in China, I was setting up the company together with some colleagues, and it was actually amazing because I just didn't believe that you needed a so-called ICP number on your website, and if you don't have that number on your website, within a few minutes, you're being scanned and you're out. It's ridiculous, but it's the way it works. And that's also why we named it the Great Firewall, because they're actually blocking everything which is not, which is actually too open or, abusive content or things that they dislike. But it's true, you need to be aware of hosting within China. You need to be aware that you have to comply to certain rules and regulations. You need to make sure that you have servers set up within China. Also, because it's a large country, from the north and the south. You need to have different data centers. And on top of that, I don't even think you have that in the slide, but it's also two competitive government-owned companies, China Netcom and China Telecom, who are competing with each other, which basically means that you have to set up servers in one data center, and you have to set up servers in the other data center because they're not interconnected at all. So you have to set up servers on every end, and if you have the difference on distance, you probably are in need of at least 4 data centers to run a proper website and proper games within China.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's how we call you have to be really localized in this way. Not fully open to overseas developer. This is not only in China, also in Japan. If you have, there is some cooperation with Korea. So if you want to do some deal with Korea, you have to be the local Japanese company. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So this is the reality here. And also content check. So not only in China, in South Korea, there's also a lot of content check for the game. So let's get more and more restrict.
Yeah, well, in regards to the content, I think it's good to know that if you're a Western developer, as we call it, the West and the East, there is a large difficulty to communicate with a lot of Chinese people. There are some companies that offer their services to communicate for you on your behalf, but often that's a lot of overhead on your communication and a lot of overhead on the speed of development and taking your game to the market. That's also why we've built as Spil Games a subsidiary within Shanghai in China to ensure that we have optimal communication and that people like Chen and his team are actually able to facilitate games outside of China and convert that to Western gameplay. That's a small insight I wanted to share as well.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I think the next topic is more the best practices, looking at the West and the East, or the East and the West, whatever you want to call it. We've set up the part on app discovery, as many people will call it. We call it games discovery. How does it work in the West, and how does it differ in the Eastern part of the world? We have one substantial Android market. I say substantial because there are multiple ones, but I think everyone by default runs the Google Android market. We have only one iTunes App Store, which is a closed ecosystem but runs fairly well. And we have the ability to do discovery on the open web. And as we just mentioned, that's a luxury probably in countries like China, because discovery on the open web is only possible if you comply to certain rules and regulations. And on top of that, we also have the ability to run all the games through social networks. And the Chinese or Asian partners also have that ability, but again, a lot of the social networks are blocked, so don't bet on those. But maybe you can tell more about how that works in the eastern part of the world.
Yeah, there's too many Android market in Japan, China. So for example, in China, we got over maybe 50 Android market from the mobile factory, mobile company, Samsung, LG, Motorola. So everyone got the mobile Android market. So there's too much competition and also the fragmentation. And also in Chinese, they always go to some like start page, navigation page, go to this page, then you choose some link, go to the website, surf online. So if you got some application, if you have a good game, you have to choose a different Android market. Go there, put your game there, and promote. There's not one major destination you can put your game like App Store, like official Android market. You have to distribute this in many ways.
But same goes for, you mentioned that shortly, or on the start pages. Just adding your game on SEO that you can have actively search engine traffic, that's way more difficult. And the way the promotions within China, for example, but I think in more parts of Asia, is usually done by start pages, right? You buy a link to actually promote a game in particular. But the fun thing is, well, it's not that fun actually, but you are probably on the start page for 2 weeks, and probably in the third week, they start calling you and say, hey, do you still want to be on there? okay, it's not $200, but it's now $20,000. By the way, thanks. If not, we're going to remove your link. So it's extremely difficult to maintain a certain level of traffic and a certain level of quality traffic to your games and websites. And that's why it's extremely important to have your own portals or your own destinations within those regions to become successful as a game developer.
That's also why the social media is a very good source to acquire the user, because there's not so many applications in social media. Especially if you have a good game, they will really welcome to have you and also help you to promote that. So now it's a good timing to do that.
Shall we go to the next one?
Yeah.
Payments. Extremely important because as the topic, the title of the topic explained, we're talking about monetization. I think you're familiar with the Western part. It's a lot about local payment methods. We see a lot of mobile payment methods like SMS popping up. Also the Zong and the Bokus of this world are becoming interesting. And looking at the target groups that we are focusing on, we have a large majority of young users as well, kids. It's extremely difficult to monetize that audience. And of course, their parents need to provide consent. We have to also comply to certain rules and regulations in the Western world even. But we, for example, came up with the offer-based payments. It's not that we discovered that, but we started to utilize that to actually monetize our traffic. And the reason why is mainly because try to ask your dad for a credit card number. It will probably not provide that. So we needed to find other ways to monetize that younger audience without actually harming their income or their dad's income. And that's actually where the offer-based marketing is a very good example, where a kid can look at a video for 30 seconds, and as a reward, he gets a certain amount of credits. Those credits are being ported back to the game, and then you can continue playing your game in return for credits, for example. In China, or in Asia in particular?
Yeah, we still, the most way we use still the career billing or the SMS messaging, because it's very easy to get money from the career. But the problem is the commission fee is quite high, even more than half.
For SMS it is. For the carrier operator billing, it's a lot lower, right?
It's a lot lower.
Yeah.
So now the developer also looking for other way, like you can use a credit card and use the other method. So now the credit card is get much larger, but still, I think less than 5%. So I do see the good trend, the credit card method, because credit card just paid like 0.3% commission to the bank, so you can get more in return.
Yeah, for sure. Another important part is knowing your audience, and I think it's needless to say that if you localize a game, people can more easily identify themselves with a game. And we've seen that localizing games, in particular on the language strings like text, is just one thing, but localizing on a cultural level is even more important. So people in China want to harvest rice on their farm. And on the other side, people in the Netherlands probably want to harvest their potatoes. It's a difference in culture, which has seen a tremendous growth if we were adjusting that. I think similar stories are for the payments, as mentioned. As soon as you try to adjust your payments to your target audience, it will definitely drive a lot more conversion. And I think that's also where we believe, as a publisher, we can add value to developers, because as a developer, you don't want to worry about it. You just want your game out there, you want to have a huge audience, and you want that payments can be done easily and frictionless. And we try to come up with the solutions on a portal level, and we hope that we can attract a lot of developers that can take care of a great concept of the game.
Yeah, in terms of knowing your audience, I have some examples. So in each country, the audience is different, demographic or the user behavior. So if you want to do a campaign or sales campaign for your mobile gaming, so you want to do some like in the peak time of concurrent user. So if you do this in Weibo, Chinese platform, so the peak time is like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. So there's lots of people play that secretly in office hour. Yeah. But in Japan, so the peak hour, in our experience, is after 8 p.m. So when people on the way home, so they play that in the train. So it's quite different. You have to know your audience first, then you decide what you're going to do.
Yeah, I think it's a major difference as well that in the Western world, it sounds a bit negative almost, but we see that if you run a game in English, for example, in Europe or in the United States, it's okay. Although you have Spanish people, you have Italian people, it's still okay because those cultures usually understand English more than sufficient to actually start playing the game. I think why we emphasized on the differences per country is because the Asian market is so fragmented in so many different languages, and usually the people, the audience, your fans, are not able to understand the English language. So you have to localize that more heavily than we would do in the Western world.
True. Yeah, there's some tips for business in Asia. Hope it is helpful for you. Oops. Yeah, the compatibility issue is still there. So, but I'm optimistic for this. So we do this like 1 year ago. So I was bothered by the Android issue because lots of Android phone like 1.6 got a lot of problem with HTML5 game. But now it's much better with the Android version upgrade to 2.3. So it's working more and more smoothly. So I'm very happy about that. Find a balance between function and user experience. Why I say this? Because there's a lot of difference between iOS and Android. For example, the multi-touch. It's hard to use multi-touch in Android right now, so you have to, in the gameplay, so you have to use the other ways. There's a lot of fancy function, fancy animation you can use for your mobile gaming. But first you have to keep your user can play this game, then the fancy stuff. So you have to find the balance. First, let people play. The gameplay concept, the data balance is a priority. In our experience, we found more and more Android phone in the market than we thought. That's the Android phone market share in Japan, China, and Korea. And in our game, so we saw that over 80% of Android phone user play our game. So that's much higher than this. So which means you have to testing a lot with your Android phone because there's too many devices, too many different hardware, screen resolution. The truth is you cannot satisfy everyone. So there's only like some percentage user you can satisfy, and others you can just. I cannot say give up. You can just say, okay, there's a error page. Say, okay, right now we cannot support your mode, so we can figure out later on. So the behaviors. Because Chinese and Japanese users get used to the browser-based game in feature phone age, so most of them still use the portrait mode. So I like what Justin said before, the portrait equal work and landscape equal gaming and music, but it is not the same in China, in Japan. Always portrait mode. And this is a very special user behavior in China and Japan. So when lots of people still play game in train, in lunch break, or the other inconvenient places. So they get used to play the game with one hand, just press and achieve the task, get a word. So they just press and press, even they don't see the screen. So if you saw the screenshot, you can see there's something in common. So the big red button, this is very obvious in each screen. So if you want to do some mobile gaming in Asia, you have to use this way, just a very obvious navigation to next page, and so user can just press.
That's about the part that I can understand and comprehend. After that, okay. I'm lost, but that's clear.
Good. So we call it blind control. Event update does matter. In Asia, if you want to do a mobile gaming, so you have to do a lot of events very frequently, even per week or every 2 weeks. You can keep user more exciting and keep them in return. The event including you open a new map, you have some battle for the limited connection, virtual item, or just sell some new stuff. So this is a very good way to monetize your game as well. Still some challenge. Yeah, even though HTML5 still have some problem, but audio have some problem, like everybody knows this. But in Asia, at least in Japan and China, I didn't say the user have very high expectation to this, because they say this, they just play this in train. They don't need the audio, the sound. But it's a good thing to have, but not the priority right now. Canvas performance still sucks in iframe. If you work with some social network, so you have to integrate your game within iframe. So the performance will be bad. The FPS will drop a lot, so you have to optimize and testing. We have this problem a long time ago, so we use other solution to do this. Saving data traffic for user, you just caching or use manifest or the other way, caching more statistic resource in the mobile side, so user don't need to download all the file from the server. So this saving money for user. For some country like China, so the bandwidth is so expensive, so user will be happy to see this. Great.
Yeah, I think also important, and that's also something I always emphasize on, is the speed on what the browser vendors nowadays update their browsers with the latest and greatest on HTML5 APIs and all the nice features is great. But we should not underestimate, from a publisher perspective, that those browsers are not that easily adopted by our end users, not at the same pace at least. I still see in our statistics users of IE7 and IE6. And as a publisher, we need to keep a close eye on that, because we don't want to disappoint users that are playing games. And that's probably also one of the reasons why we feel that a Flash version for the desktop is still mandatory in combination with HTML5 titles for tablets and for mobile. And probably in 6 or maybe 12 months, I'm sure that we will transition to HTML5 for the desktop as well. But we need to keep in mind that the adoption is still very important for our end users. They don't care about that, but we need to make sure that we facilitate them with the right entertainment. And offering them an error on screen or not loading anything at all because the browser will just ignore the tags, that's probably a less experience on that.
Yeah. That's also why we choose mobile HTML5 game in Asia right now, because modern browser for desktop market share is not so good. So
yeah. So how do we know all this? I hope it doesn't come across as bragging about what we've done. I hope it comes across like, okay, we're enthusiastic about it, excited about it, just like you guys and gals, sorry. But we want to share what we've done, and we also want to offer a hand of support if you appreciate that. And that is by offering a global infrastructure platform that can help you in all the learnings that we've had in the past period. And some of those learnings is, for example, feature detection. I just heard it that Paul actually wanted to have that built in the APIs. We didn't wait for that. We wanted to build an extension ourselves that could actually help determine what kind of device a user is at the moment and what kind of features the device actually supports. This is something that you can find in our API. It is something we can make available for you if you like. And in addition to that, there are a couple of other things, like, for example, localization support. We can get language files from you, take care of localization into 19 or 20 different languages if you like. And we can help you get across to a large community of users. Next to that, we also have an abstraction built in our API that takes care of authentication. So, of course, on our own portals, across the 50 owned portals, we do authentication. But we also take care of, for example, authentication against Facebook or to the different social networks that we already run on. So that's, for example, StudiVZ in Germany, that's Twenty in Spain, but that's also on MySpace and all the other open social providers that you can think of. We also offer payments. As said, important not for you to worry about, but we took care of about 240 different countries that we support in payments. We take care of a lightbox, as we call it, that overlays on your game or is being implemented within your Flash. This is actually cross-platform, so you can run this API everywhere. We offer a SDK for JavaScript, for Flash, as well as a REST API. So in the end, you can utilize everything that we have. As well as for hosting, I'm not going to elaborate on that, but we can offer private clouds if you like, making sure that you can cover the whole globe with a fast loading time. Because we've seen that, for example, the cloud services in this world are not often optimized for loading games or multiplayer games in general. In addition to that, you get access to the whole social graph that we offer on the API. So that is the friends, that is the notification, that is the events, the wall post, as we call it. You get access to everything. And that means that, again, it's an abstraction. If you do a wall post to our portals, we can also do the same wall post to Facebook automatically for you or to other networks for you. And that's probably showing you what a publisher platform can do for you. There's much more in there. We can offer a huge amount of nice features, and we're happy to talk to you about that if you like. This is a quick screen dump on how it works in our developer environment. You just pass on some parameters, you can try it yourself, and you get your call method. You can easily implement that. You get your result back directly and can start playing around with all the data that's in there. So that's it. I see 2 minutes left for questions and answers. I'm not sure if we're limited to that set. Are we limited to that? Or? Yeah, we're limited to that. So feel free to stand up. First one is already on there.
Gentlemen, thanks for your time today. I was wondering about Mixi in Japan, and as far as 2011 goes, have you been seeing more Facebook penetration in Japan?
I do saw only 5 million Facebook penetration in Japan. Yeah, but I think more and more gamers still in the local society. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
It's not taking over that rapidly compared to other countries that we see.
Not at all.
Okay. Any other questions, maybe? None? All right. Again, feel free to contact us after this one. And thanks again for your time and interest in the Asian market. Thank you.
Thank you.